Hey Cryptic Creatures! Today we have a very special video, an interview with Vision from Alter of Vision, Substained, and Tragic Black. So let's dive into the video. Vision is more widely known as being the vocalist in the Deathrock band Tragic Black from Salt Lake City, Utah. He's also the vocalist in the black metal / death metal band Substained, and more recently released an album under the name Alter of Vision, which explores more goth and electronic styles. I have personally listened to all of these bands, and I highly recommend each of them. You can find links to purchase or stream all of the music discussed today in the description below. In today's interview, we talk about everything from life, self-actualization, personal challenges, Lord of the Rings, Norse mythology, vampires, creeps with vans, and of course, the more recently released album Alter of Visions. Throughout the interview, Vision drops many words of wisdom, so you're going to want to stay till the end. Please let us know in the comments below what your favorite moments of the interview were, and if you have any words of wisdom you'd like to share yourself, we'd love to hear it. This interview was recorded over Zoom on December 12th, 2020. Well, we're here today with Vision from Alter of Vision and Tragic Black, as many of you may know him from. Thank you for being here today, and cheers to this year being over and you having your release of Alter of Visions, the album. And seriously, thank you for doing this interview today.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So before we jump into the specifics of your album, I have a few questions just about like generally how you got into making music and singing. First of all, you're a vocalist in both Tragic Black and Alter of Vision. You also have a black metal band, is that correct?
Yep.
Are you the vocalist in that band as well?
Yep, called Substained.
I definitely will be checking that out later today. So when did you start singing and what really drew you to become a vocalist?
Just listening to music all my life, I would sing along. Always thought how cool it'd be if I had my own band. I think a lot of people are like that. Pretty much how it was for me. I always imagined one day, I would do it, but you just got to do the work to get there. So yeah, finally started pursuing it. I had a good friend named Vile, and he was a keyboard player and a musician on multiple fronts. And I said, hey man, and I went off on the idea because one time me and my friends were driving around in a car talking about cliche goth names, or goth band names rather. And I came up with Tragic Black, just kind of like, it'd be the coolest goth band name, and then came up with Tragic Black right then and there. And then it always stuck with me. And then I told him, hey man, I got this idea, and then we just gave it a shot. We had to do our work basically.
Do you mind if I ask how old you were when all that was happening?
I was 19, so now I'm 39. So it's 20 years of Tragic Black. So I wasn't even legally old enough to drink when we did our first show, but I drank,
Yeah.
There's a really funny video that we made of the first show where we documented it on those old school camcorders. It shows Vile with a huge 1 gallon bottle of red wine. He's like, something red and with some body to it. It was really funny. Yeah, it was fun.
That's amazing and so relatable. I remember being 15 and running around with those big giant jugs of wine that you could get at the grocery store. I know, me either.
But when you're young and you get someone who's old enough to buy alcohol,
you take what you can.
Yeah. But eventually my dad would be buying it for me, hey dad, I'm like, wait a minute, why am I taking whatever I can get when I can just ask my dad to go buy?
Smart. So do you remember, before we move on to the next question, do you remember the very first things that you would sing along to when you were young, when you were a kid?
Pretty much Motley Crue. That is my first love, the band that I love the most. Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses were the start for me, just loving music, and even though it's not goth music, it's dark and they look cool and they have a dangerous vibe to them. The song Merry Go Round comes to mind. Sebastian Bach from Skid Row, that was one of the other ones that he could do anything with his voice. Vince Neil on Too Fast for Love especially. Shout at the Devil as well, but those two, I would try to sing along with that, but a keyword is try, because it's hard to sing like Vince Neil. I think
I would destroy my voice trying to sing like him, but maybe that's the reason you're able to do so many different vocal styles, because you had such a unique icon from an early age. You kind of started talking a little bit about how you got into, the goth subculture, or you were 19 when you were starting Tragic Black, but how did you first get
interested in the subculture? Like, when did you know you were drawn to that sort of like darker side of things?
You know, when I looked back at some of my like coloring books from like when I was a kid, and I would be drawing vampires like from like when I was in kindergarten, and I think that I was meant for this. It seems obvious now, you know. I never would
Yeah.
have known then, but I remember there was a time when I was walking through the mall. There used to be a mall called Crossroads Plaza, and people would warn you, don't go there. There was a lot of goth people and metal people and punk rockers. And one time I'm walking down and I see this kind of punk rock guy with like spiky jacket, and I was just like, Mom, when I grow up, that's how I'm gonna be, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I
I
love
kind of
that.
apparently I lived up to it, and so I felt like I was destined for it. But when society sort of pissed me off in my junior high era,
Mm.
I kind of just said to hell with it, and did what I wanted to do instead of trying to please anyone else. I'm like, you know, I've always been interested in this stuff, and Marilyn Manson was he had just either not yet released. I think it was between the Smells Like Children album and the Antichrist Superstar era when I was really getting into it, and that had something to do with it as well. But then I would go to CD shops a lot. I'm a big music person. I'd buy something randomly, you know, and I saw a Christian Death CD, and I never even
Ooh.
heard it, and it was Catastrophe Ballet, and I was looking at it and I was like, Christian Death. And I didn't buy it the very first day that I saw it. I had to kind of like plant it in my mind, and then like a week later, I came back because I wanted to know what it was like, so I just bought it, and I was expecting well, something a lot different. By the way, I thought it would be heavy and like more like I don't know. I just wasn't expecting what I got, but I liked it. I was like, this is cool. Kind of rolled with it, and then there's another cool Christian Death like a Skeleton Kiss EP that was there at the used CD store, and so I just kind of bought them both, and then I went out and bought Sex, Drugs, and Jesus Christ, which happened to be Valor instead of Roz.
um,
And I was like, what is this? You know, because but this was like pretty much before the internet, you know, kind of like, I mean,
right.
I think
Yeah.
it technically existed, but like I didn't use it, you know, and so I didn't know the big story and all the, you know. So anyway, like I just got really into the Roz side, and I liked the you know, This Is Heresy by Valor. So I'm not gonna like totally shit on him, but so you know, and then also The Cure. Like, I knew a lot of like, or I didn't really know. I saw goth people, you know, around. You know, they'd have Cure shirts on, but I would watch videos on MTV, and they had Friday I'm in Love, and I'm like, I don't get it. You know, how could this cool looking goth person like this, ding, 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 you know, dancing around happy, and I
Yeah.
didn't get it. But then I went out and bought 17 Seconds by The Cure. Like, I don't know, I'm just gonna buy it. It was like $12 or something, and I was like, I'll just buy it. And it turned out to be like, wait, I get it now, you know, because it's not all that like happy stuff. And so, anyway, basically, I just felt destined, and I just kind of winged it and loved what I heard.
Thank you for sharing that much of your story, because I feel like you are a great example of like self-actualization, which is not something that everybody prioritizes or, you know, does, mostly for fear of like what other people will think sometimes.
Mm.
Regardless of what they're into, it doesn't have to be goth, but I think a lot of times we don't self-actualize because of societal pressures. So I love seeing when people self-actualize. So you're an amazing example of that. So thank you for sharing. And a lot of that is so relatable, especially with like seeing goth aesthetics and then hearing goth music for the first time and being like, what? But then you end up liking it. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's awesome.
Cool.
So speaking of that, in this world, it can be a challenge to be authentic and self-actualize. And you have managed to, you know, maintain such a consistent and creative career and lifestyle. So do you have any words of advice for people who want to create, or who might feel, you know, afraid to express themselves?
I'd say, you know, don't let other people write the rules for you. You know, when it comes to like being a goth, you know, I also listen, you know, like you said a minute ago, I'm a singer of a black metal band, you know, and I also, you know, I've done like a hair metal band in the past. It's no longer in existence, but called Corbid, by the way, if anyone's interested. But so the key is that you need to do what you want to do. You know, like you're never gonna make anybody happy, you know, or everybody happy, really. So you just gotta like do what you like. And so, like, I listen to punk. You know, does that mean I'm not gothic anymore? Or now I listen to black metal. Does now I'm not a gothic anymore? Now, oh, I play hair metal. Now you're not this. Or, you know, I say I get to decide. You know, I get to decide what I'm gonna do. I'm all of the above in my head. I'm not like, nope, now that I'm doing a black metal band, I'm no longer gothic, you know.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. You know, in my man, it's just another badge, you know. And if you're honest about what you're doing, if it's true, it's not artificial, and you're like really making something that you want to do, then that's what you should do, you know. And so if you're a person who wants to make music, don't worry about like, I don't sound like this, or, you know, I don't know, you know, like if I fit in, you know, I would say like, that's probably a good thing. Like, go with what you think would be good. And maybe someone out there, for me, like you, would understand it, you know. And so
Yes, that is such good advice. And I feel like that could apply to anything, any genre where people might be afraid to make music. And if you don't mind me asking, what pissed you off so much in junior high when you were just like, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want?
well, you know, I've been writing, you know, my name Vision comes from the skateboard brand called Vision Streetwear, you know, and or Vision skateboards. And when I was in like second grade or like 8 years old, my mom got me a Vision skateboard. And then like when I came up with the idea of like calling myself Vision, it was like a mixture between spirituality and something that's been there my whole life. Basically, I would, you know, I'd listen to Megadeth, for example, and you know, I'd be skateboarding with these skater kids that were like into like Nirvana, and I like Nirvana too, don't get me wrong, but like they were trying to fit the mold. Like everyone bleaches their hair back in those days, everyone smokes weed, you know. And I was like, dude, I'm like 14, I'm not going to smoke weed, you know. Well, other people, you know, they can go ahead and do it, but I'm not saying that I'm against it, but like, especially as a 14-year-old, I'm like, maybe one day, but not now, you know, in my mind. And so I was just irritated with the social pressure of like, in order to skateboard, you cannot listen to Megadeth and Slayer. You have to listen to a bunch of crap that we say that is skater music. And I was like, listen here, guy, I was skating before there was a Nirvana, you know, or before there was, you know, I started skating, like I said, as like an 8-year-old. So now that I'm 14 or whatever, you know, 13, 14 years old, they're trying to tell me what I can do, what I can't do. I'm like, I've been riding half pipes and doing all this shit my whole life, so I don't need you to tell me what I can and can't do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it was. You know, then I got into a big fight with one of my best friends, and it made everyone hate me. And when everyone already hated me, I was like, well, good. Now that they hate me, I have no reason to lose with what I want to do anyway. I was always interested. I'd see people like my friends Ann and Bill here in Salt Lake. I saw them on like local television one time. There was goth people, you know, and I was like, and I wasn't a goth at this time, but I thought it was so cool. I saw they did an interview, and they were like with a stroller with their little baby, and they're like, the news was like horrified, you know, like, how could these people have a child, you know. It's really funny, but you know, and I just assumed they were Satan worshiping people and cool, you know. But
Yeah.
like friends of mine, and they're not, but you know, they're still cool, you know.
They're still cool.
But like there was a mystique to it, you know. Like I was so interested. Like I like for the longest time believed in vampires. I honestly, and I still do, by the way. Like there was a time where I was in Denver, not to go off on all these side.
No, please do. It's awesome.
Like, there was this guy that like, you know, claimed to be a vampire, and I was like, you know, he's trying to get us like to go back to his van. I was like, weird, you know.
That sounds so sketchy.
And I'm thinking he may not actually be a vampire. He just might just be a creep, you know. And so.
I'm sorry, that's so funny. I'm so glad you thought that. He might actually be a creep.
Yeah, like I'm looking out for the real vampires, like the Lestat, or like, you know, or Zilla or something, you know, these kinds of things. Like I wish and I hope that there really is, because I think that's kind of like with AOV. Like I want there to be more. Not to get into the Lord of the Rings stuff early, but like that's kind of what, you know, gets me in that direction. I want there to be more to life than this clocking in, clocking out.
Yes.
Weird underbelly of the world with a, who knows, there might be a demon lurking underneath the city streets, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. And I think even beyond just the, you know, wanting there to be more to clocking in and clocking out, there has to be more. Like there's no way that the universe, the multiverse, as infinite as it is just all of this super basic surface level stuff.
Yeah.
There's no way. Yeah, that's awesome.
You gotta like cheer for it, you know.
Yeah, definitely. But I love that you're like, maybe he's just a creep. I think that's one of the funniest.
Like I don't think this is the vampire I was waiting for. You know, like while I'm waiting for it, and how cool would it be if I really ran into one?
Yeah.
He's the one.
Thanks again for sharing all that. Like, I think it's so important for us to share these stories because it's interesting how sometimes we can get shit from like mainstream society, but we can also get shit from the communities we are wanting to be a part of, like, or or communities who are centered around things that we genuinely love. Like you were a skater, then all of a sudden you had all these kids being like, you're not a true skater because you don't listen to XYZ. And it's just really strange how these things crop up even in communities that you would think wouldn't have that. But thank you for sharing that story because I think it's relatable to a lot of people.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Okay, so getting into the altar of vision specific questions. There's a very obvious style difference between Tragic Black and Altar of Vision. But I did feel like the last Tragic Black album was going more towards like a dancier sort of mood. So what inspires you to create Altar of Vision as opposed to doing those songs and creating those songs with Tragic Black?
Well, the first song that I made for Altar of Vision was for my wife, Eileen.
Oh.
Yeah, it was an anniversary gift. And it's not on the album, you know, it's only for her kind of a thing.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
My life, you know, only a couple of people have heard it. But so when I wrote it, I was thinking, you know, with the intention of like, well, this is for you. But it kind of like inspired me to keep writing. In Tragic Black, it's not like whatever I say goes. It's like more of like come up with a song together kind of a thing. And so I just came up with so much stuff, and I'm like, there's just no way that, for one, I don't really want to change anything. I was like, no, I think it's just pretty much good how it is. And so I just felt like I made too much progress for it to be in Tragic Black, you know. And so I just kind of had to just make it a whole new project. Plus, I wanted to do something that was unrestrained. You know, it's only me who has to like it. In Tragic Black, we got to make sure everyone's really happy with what we're doing. But in this, I was like, well, I just want to go crazy. And that's kind of why I went, you know, off about the aliens and the Lord of the Rings and all this other stuff. And so I don't know if I would end up in the same place with Tragic Black. And so that's why.
Awesome. That all totally makes sense. So considering that your name is Vision, the name Altar of Vision is very clever on multiple levels. So what inspired that name?
Just kind of keeping with the vision theme, you know, I'm into, you know, all kinds of, you know, mysticism, you know, mythology, paganism, and I've got an altar. It's kind of like the all-seeing eye, you know, or the Eye of Sauron, you know, the lidless eye. And when I created the logo, I actually like drew in what I imagine is the Eye of Sauron, you know. Because it's like, that's just the best way that I imagine it in my head. Basically, these songs would be visions. You know, each specific song would be a vision coming off of the altar, you know. So one would be a vision of this, and one would be a vision of that, you know, and they'd all be a vision, you know. So,
yeah. That's so cool. I'm so happy you shared that because I was curious about, like, you know, if there was any sort of theme linking all of the songs or linking all the songs in the album. And in a way, that is sort of a link. Because it's just each song is a vision, which is awesome. Did you were the songs inspired by actual visions that you had, or did they just come to you like visions?
Yeah, kind of. It is a little bit random. There were some that I felt coming though. I'll come up with like a title of a song sometimes, and I'll think, that would be a good song, you know. But what is it about? Like, I don't know, but I know what it's called. And a lot of artists I know work the other way around. They write the lyrics and they say, how would I best explain it? For me, a lot of the time, the name of the song will come to me, and not always, you know, but a lot of the time. And so the writing process for Altar of Vision kind of took a long time. You know, I would just, because I was in no hurry, you know, like I didn't know when I was going to put it out, if I was going to put it out, you know, like it's just my thing. Like I would, a lot of times in the morning I would wake up and I would just go to the computer and start working on these riffs, you know, and drum beats and stuff. And then all of a sudden the lyrics come to me, you know, bam, you know. And the best example of that was when I wrote the To Awaken the Sleeping Bear, quote, cold spirits of darkness. The funny thing about it, I was in the studio recording with the producer I work with, and I was telling him that I like to wake up in the morning and write music. And he's like, "That's pretty cool, man. A lot of people do that." I was like, "Oh, that's weird. I didn't realize, you know." Because when you're coming from like the dream state into the real world, apparently you bring in, you know, into reality some of the stuff that you were dreaming about, or at least the vibe or something. I was like, "That's cool." I didn't realize. But the funny thing was, is that right when I was telling him that, like the very next day, I woke up and wrote the song pretty much start to finish. I've never had that kind of luck. It's the only song that I wrote that fast, and I had it recorded within less than a week, you know?
Wow, that's so cool. And it's so like that just kind of highlights how each song is its own process, and like, you know, that one just was easy, like just like spilling out of you, and sometimes it's like this like longer process and you're putting pieces together. In that way, the name Altar of Vision, would you say that like in that way this is sort of like your offering to the world?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's like I don't like to really let people into my world. I'm doing more of that now than I pretty much ever have, you know, but like for the most part, I want to like put stuff out there, and I feel like there are a few who will like, you know, connect with it, but I feel like it's more rewarding for those who actually do, you know what I mean? So like, I'm gonna write this album and it's gonna be on this big label and everyone's gonna hear it, you know what I mean? That would be cool, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna like hate if people liked it, you know, but I kind of feel like the value is in the true, like, I don't know, like, you know, you stumbled upon it yourself, you know, like the way you did it sounds like, and like it kind of resonated with you, and like that's kind of what I'm going for. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be everyone else like it, but if a couple of people really get into it, cool.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, because it's like then it's a genuine connection with you, because there's so many different ways to like do music. And now music, I feel like music is always sort of inherently spiritual, or like an expression of the soul. And I'm sure there's tons of like super popular, you know, pop songs that have that element of like spirit and soul in it as well. But then there's also like the business aspect of music that people are like, okay, I'm gonna write a catchy song, I'm gonna write a song that's gonna go viral or whatever. And not to say that that's not a genuine connection with people, but I feel like that just like creating something that is so you without worrying about that aspect, and then having people genuinely connect with that, it's like you're genuinely connecting with people that are listening to your music. So yeah, I totally get it. That's awesome. So as a follow-up, you know, how come, why are there so many references to Lord of the Rings? I love Lord of the Rings, so that's definitely coming from a place of interest. But yeah, what was the big inspiration to include so much Lord of the Rings into this album?
Well, I'm still working on reading all the books, but I've seen all the movies like a bunch of times, and whenever I would watch them, I feel like, I mean, this sounds so nerdy, but I'm just gonna go for it. It's like I almost like think that, you know, there was a time, because we really don't know how long the Earth has been here and how many civilizations have come and gone, and you know, we can only go back so far, you know, and so I feel like there's a, you know, weird possibility that there once was a time where things were kind of like that, you know, maybe not exactly, but kind of like that. And so I've always liked that kind of like mysterious or possibility, that like the ancient tale of Atlantis or Lemuria and all these things. And it makes you wonder, like, was it like that then? And so that's kind of what it is. It's like the old school, you know, like the ancient gods thing, or not even gods, just like the ancient worlds that we don't even know about, to inspire some of that like thinking, to make you wonder, bring you into the zone of like those kind of movies or that kind of mindset where all this is possible, you know.
Awesome. So is this just like mostly inspired by your personal love for Lord of the Rings, and like just bringing that into something that is your creation, your altar, your world?
Yeah, and there's a lot of pagan references in you know, like the elves, you know, like this isn't maybe commonly known, but in paganism back in the day, the elves were basically considered the dead, you know. So the elves would be the dead, and so, you know, they used to have an alpha blot where they would make a sacrifice to the elves, but the elves weren't, you know, like the elves that we think of from the Lord of the Rings. They're actually the dead, you know. And so a lot of what I do is pagan in some way or another, and so I just find ways of making it like, you know, my own, you know, and it's just a way to link from the now into the then, you know.
Ooh, that's awesome. I've never heard that before. That's really cool.
I mean, I'm a strange person, I admit.
That's why we love you. Another mythical sort of like older world reference is the Norse mythology that you included in this album. And I had to look up, I had no idea what Ragnarok was. I was like, what is he talking about? So I had to search that. And so for anyone else watching who doesn't know what that means, in Norse mythology, a series of events, including a great battle, foretold to lead to the death of a number of great figures, natural disasters, and the submersion of the world in water. So was this song just, as you said, a vision of thinking about a Ragnarok, or was there any like personal element? Like, did you go through like a Ragnarok personally?
Yeah, I think
that
that's
part
what
of the song.
you pretty much nailed it. Like I lost my dad, like 4.5 years ago. And so, it was like my Ragnarok. That's what I call it, my Ragnarok. Like, not Ragnarok, but for me, it was losing my dad was pretty hard for me. And I mean, it still is. And so it was a way for me to like, put it into music, and to show some honor and respect, I think about Stranger Things, like the Upside Down, maybe they're in the Upside Down, and I almost, the old lyrics of that song, I used to talk about the Upside Down, but I kind of rewrote it a little bit, but it kind of has that feel that like it's my Ragnarok, and I'm hoping that the people in the Upside Down, like my dad, would hear it. It's not really his style of music per se. He probably wouldn't hate it, but it's not the Beatles, it's not Ozzy, it's not his thing,
Yeah.
But it was kind of like my offering for him in that way. And there's actually a lot of songs in the album that are that way, for people in my family, like Youngblood, is related to one of my family members who passed away. And so, it's like I'll do little offerings, that I hope they know, or people around them know. The rest of the world just thinks it's vampires or whatever, so.
Wow, that's really beautiful that you make these like basically gifts for people that you know. And I'm sorry for the losses that you had recently. And that's such a beautiful way to memorialize people in your life. And so your dad was actually also on the album art, right?
Yeah. My friend drew a portrait of him, and then I just added in the some stuff that I drew on my own. And I just made a little. So when you open it up, you see like my dad on there.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that, because I feel like that's very personal. And that's something that, like you said, if you listen to an album, you're not going to know that. You're just going to assume, oh, it's about Dracula, or it's about, Norse mythology. But it's really awesome to hear like the more personal side of music writing and how like much of your soul really just does go into it.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So what do you hope, and I think you touched on this a little bit, but what do you hope that friends, fiends, fans get from listening to this album?
Maybe their own visions, something to give them their own fire, light their own fire, that's what I would say. In their own inspiration, I don't know, not that my album's gonna like make the difference in everyone's life, but I don't know, if you see me over here having a good time, liking what I'm doing, maybe you think, I could have a good time writing my own music too. So I don't know, maybe that.
Yes. And I think definitely, and just everything you're sharing, I really do believe that when people live their lives fully and authentically, it inherently just inspires everyone else to do the same. So you've definitely done that and continue to do it. So thank you for sharing that with the world, because it really does have a ripple effect.
Well, there was a friend of mine who was like, kind of telling me, oh yeah, I want to make a band, or I have all these songs written, and I just said, go for it. And then he did,
Yes.
Later, like, I got to hand it to you. You pretty much put it on me to make it happen, and I did. So thanks. So
that's amazing. And that's also so wonderful that you're that encouraging, because unfortunately, I wish everybody was like that, but that's not the case. Sometimes even the people that you call friends are like going to be the first to judge you. So thank you for doing that for people. I think that the more you inspire creativity, the better, and expression. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm no naysayer. I'm gonna go ahead and do it,
So thinking about the future, needless to say, 2020 was rough for a lot of people. Did you have what were your specific challenges, or did you have any specific challenges this year, and how did you get through them? Like, what really got you through those challenges?
Just being on the internet less helps me more, everyone just kind of going off on their own tirades, just kind of, I find it annoying. I think that there's plenty that you can just do on your own, and it's just a big waste of time, So I feel like just trying to, connect with people who you really connect with genuinely, and not like stand on your soapbox constantly and like, desperately seek for attention. I feel like that's a real worthless waste. Like you spend all this time trying to be noticed,
Yes.
or appreciated, and I feel like you are devaluing yourself by doing that. It's like you are already worthwhile and you have value, and you don't need a million likes to prove it, kind of a thing. So I think the more that I've just kind of like accepted, people are gonna like it, they're not gonna like it, I don't know. I'm just gonna do my own thing and get into my own things, something that actually makes you better. Whether that's, for me, it's like drinking less. Like I used to drink more often, now I drink less. Getting more exercise, doing more reading, getting out into nature more. Things like whatever it is that makes you happier. I mean, that's what makes me happy. I would just say, like, find what's your thing and just get into that and get off of your phone a little more and more, and because those apps, they have a way to try to make you addicted. Like they'll keep giving you alerts. Hey, guess what? So and so liked your post, or so and so made your post. They want to get you back on there, and I just don't want to be on there constantly. And it's not that I don't care about my friends who posted a picture or a post, because I do, and I'll get on there, but I don't want to be on there constantly. Like I have a friend that says I have 5 minutes a day for Facebook, and I was like, that is amazing, because I waste way more time than that. And so I've been trying to kind of go with his, what he's doing, and do less and less and less. My thing's like, you've been 20% down since last week. I'm like, good, because a lot of that stuff brings you down, because it's trying to make you
definitely
to the app. So I'd just say, find your own things, do something that makes you happy, and don't try to worry about anyone else. Like, you're seeking for the world or the government or your friends or your family to fix your things. I think you can probably do most of it yourself.
Definitely, man, mind blown, because that is, again, so relatable. And I feel like I've very similarly, like, kind of turned this year around by stepping away from the internet. Like, there was a point where I just completely deleted my Facebook for all the reasons you said. Like, people are fighting, everybody's on their soapbox. It's this need to feel significant and like get validation more so than actually connecting. That's how it feels. Mm-hmm. So that's such solid advice. Everybody out there, take note, step away. So you mentioned in one of your YouTube videos, actually, that this is a new chapter for yourself and for Tragic Black. So what kind of makes this a new chapter, and what are you looking forward to most in the future?
Well, with Tragic Black, our bass player, he moved away like a year and a half ago to Denver, Colorado, and we're based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And so the band never broke up. We were just kind of like, we'll just stay in touch, and if we get a show, we'll play a show. But it kind of just was on standstill for a little while. But things happened, and now he moved back. So now we're going again, and we recorded a new song, It's called Dancing with Death, and it's really good. I would say it's kind of like our song Apparition. It's pretty cool. You'll hear it one day, but we're still waiting for the mix to be finished. So we're gonna tinker around with some new ideas, but we're in no big hurry to like make a new album, because I think we've made like 6 albums and 3 or 4 EPs and a live album and all this stuff that we've already done. Mm-hmm. I think we've made plenty. We don't have to make a million albums in order to remain significant or relative. Mm-hmm. So we're just gonna do our own thing and come up with some stuff, try to enjoy ourselves, and enjoy that Vile's back in town again. He's been gone. So, but because of the pandemic, we've been trying to social distance, and that's kind of screwed up with our practicing schedule. Like, we're worried about, like, you go to practice, or you're going to get COVID and give it to your family when you see them. So it kind of messed up with everything, but we're trying to, come up with a handful of new things. We got the one song done that symbolizes 20 years. Because we did October 31st of 2000 for our first show. Right after that right before that we recorded the new song. And so there we go. It tightens, or it makes like an official, it's been 20 years. Our goal is to show the world, hey, we're still around, and this is the song. And we hope that festivals around the world, or maybe venues want to say, hey, Tragic
Yeah.
Black, come play. So
Yes.
that's pretty much
2021 or 2022 or
yeah, one of those.
whenever the world opens up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Whoa, that's exciting. And congrats and cheers to 20 years of Tragic. That's very impressive. That's
Yeah.
impressive. That's
That
an
whole
impressive
kid
amount of
grown
time.
up and became, able to get into the bar by the time we were around.
Yeah. You're almost legal enough to drink as a band.
Almost.
Almost. So you've already shared so many words of wisdom in this interview. I really believe that there's a lot of value in the things that you've been talking about. But do you have any general words of wisdom or just kind words of kindness that you would like to share with anyone watching out there?
I don't know. Just be a good person. It's pretty much chalks up to that. Like treat people how you want to be treated. It's like like don't really worry about whether or not everyone loves what you're doing. If you're a new band, it's going to take time for people to know or care, but at the same time you should also do something different as well. Like if you're going to be a new goth band or a new punk band or a new metal band or whatever, even though you like the bands that make you want to do it, try to like figure out of a way to, like, when you make your band, it sounds different than the band you like. Like if you love Cradle of Filth, great. Like I love Cradle of Filth, but like, do I need to sound exactly like them? No. That just need to be inspired to go and do something because of a band like that. Or if do you need to be like Corpus Delecti? Maybe. But you know what? You don't have to sound just like them. You can take that inspiration, and just make something of your own without worrying whether or not it's gothic or black metal or whatever it is. Because people are going to respond to it, I think, if you're being honest, if they hear about it. There's a million bands nowadays, so like you might make the best music in the world and no one will know about it.
That's true. But I guess at the same time, it's odd because it feels very flooded, but at the same time, there's more ways for people to hear your music than back in the day when maybe all you had was like a burned CD, and like, how is someone in Maine gonna get that,
Yeah.
It's a crazy time. Well, yeah, that's great advice. So be authentic, be yourself. And yeah, I guess the last question was if there's anything you wish that an interviewer before had asked you in any interview.
The only thing I would say is like I'll just plug some of the other things I got going on.
Ooh, great.
Because if you like me or what I am or what I sound like, I do a project called Spectre Theater that is with a guy from Leipzig rather, Germany, and we've made pretty much a whole album, and it's out there. It's on YouTube. So Spectre Theater, SPECTRE, and we spell theater with a TRE. So yeah, we're gonna have a couple new songs coming out. Like we recorded them a couple of years ago, but we just never finished them up. So that's on the horizon. And then there is a band called Shadow Assembly, who is a goth band who kind of reaches out to various artists, like, hey, would you do the vocals here? Hey, would you do the vocals there? And I did the vocals here or there. I'm going to be making a video for one of the songs, or the only song that I did for him, for Shadow Assembly. And so there is that Shadow Assembly. I did a song called Down with the Dead. It's pretty cool. It's out right now. You can listen to it on YouTube, iMusic, everywhere. So it's got really low vocals. I've never went that low. I always thought like this would be cool to try that out, and I did, because it's like a different project, And then in Alternate Vision on the Bandcamp of mine, I have some unreleased. Well, it's not really unreleased because it's technically released, but it's not like on iMusic and everywhere else. It's not on YouTube. It's only on Bandcamp, and I have like my covers. My dad was really into Ozzy and the Doors, and so I have a Doors cover on the My Ragnorok single, and then I've got an Ozzy Shot in the Dark cover. And it's like if Ozzy went like Bauhaus or something, like it's but electronic, like new wavy. Anyway, so I have an Ozzy cover, and then I also have an AFI cover on the latest one called Retreating to the Underworld. So and there's a bunch of other like exclusive songs on each one of those releases. And so if you like what you hear, there's more. And my black metal, so if you're a black metal person who likes black metal, Substained. We have an album called Vomit the Cross. And then Tragic Black, we have a lot on the horizon. We got a lot in the past. I hope that there's more in our horizon than there is in our past. But either way, we've done it, and we're going to be doing more. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Yes, awesome. Well, you've certainly given us a lot to listen to and a lot of great stuff to listen to. So thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview. I'm looking forward to hearing everything I haven't listened to yet, because I've liked everything that you've done. And I also, I like black metal and all the different styles. So
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you for creating. Thank you for
Thank
inspiring
you.
others to create, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too. Thanks so much. It was a pleasure to do this conversation, this interview with you. It's wonderful.
So that was the full interview, and it was a lot of fun. Vision is so kind and so wise, and that's all the more reason for you to go check out his music. As a reminder, you can find all of the music that Vision mentioned in the description below. All the links will be there. I hope you enjoyed this week's video, and if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please let me know. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.